welcome all to the second meeting of our Advent crew. I am here once again with Lana, Don, Betsy, and Mark, and this week we are talking about the story, The Young Hero and the Horrible Giant, as we look at the Advent theme of peace. So to start things off, we thought it'd be fun to do a quick question, and maybe this is something that you can do with the people in your house as you're watching this video together. So Mark, why don't you start? Name 3 words that best describe Christmas to you.
Well, obviously I have to say Jesus.
Of course.
But the other 2 would be family and church.
Okay, who's next? Lana, what are your 3 words?
So my first word, obvious, we're going to say Jesus because Christmas is about Jesus. And my next word would be unconditional gift and unconditional love. And my third word would be lights. I love Christmas lights.
Oh, me too. Yes. Don, what are your 3 words?
Jesus is number 1.
Amen.
Being with my family, number 2. And number 3 is about the holiday foods, all of the treats that we don't get during the year. It gets spread out on the table and part of celebrating the Lord's coming, and then all of that with family and food. So,
Definitely. Betsy, I'm assuming you also have the word Jesus.
I was going to say, if I don't say it first, does that mean I can't be part of the crew anymore?
I mean, I think we just assumed, yeah.
I literally hear the words of the Grinch, the stink, stank, stunk. So that's probably not what I. Really, the things that I love about the Christmas story is the 3 wise men and the star. And my other favorite thing about Christmas is the Christmas tree. So those are my favorite things, is going out in the winter on a night, seeing the stars, especially around Christmas. Sorry.
Definitely. Yes. No, I love it. Yes. Those are more than 3 words, but yes, I totally agree. The lights, the warmth of everything. And yes, when you get that clear night and it's kind of crisp cold and you can see the stars, it's totally wonderful. I definitely love when it snows on Christmas Eve. That's one of my favorite Christmas moments for sure. I feel like it happens all the time, but we'll see this year. Yeah. So shifting to our story, we read about basically Goliath this week. Our first question that we're going to go through is, what is David waiting for? Advent is a season where we're waiting for Christmas to come, waiting for Jesus to be born. So Don, what is David waiting for?
and the first thing that came to mind that he was waiting for was that someone would stand up against Goliath. That someone would not, at least in Israel, not be afraid to confront this enemy, but at the same time believe that God could conquer the Philistines. And I think that was something that he was waiting to see happen. And when he stepped into that moment, he was probably wondering, what's going on here? Why aren't we just getting this done here? God can do this. And that was the case, I think, in his mind, until God really pressed upon him that he was the one.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that was what he had, that belief that other people seem to be missing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I had to look it up, so I looked it up. But the chapter right before is when he's anointed, or he gets picked to be the king. So I wanted to make that happen before. So, but then he goes back to being a shepherd. So I wonder if in his head he's thinking, when am I going to be king? I was just anointed. Right? Why? How long is this going to take? So I think he's waiting for that next step to become the king.
Definitely. Yeah. So their next question is, in what ways do we see David practicing obedience in this story? Betsy, what do you think about that question?
Kind of like along with what Mark said, there's so much context to this story. So much of his obedience happens before this even starts. He has already fought. He's already trusted God. He's already living ready, I guess, for this moment. And that was kind of my first thought when I thought about how is he obeyed. I see him obeying. He tells us, oh, I've already been obeying. But then right in the moment, he keeps obeying. He's sitting there saying, well, I'll do what my dad asked. I'll go visit my brothers. And this seems like a need. No one else seems to be able to do it. I guess it's going to be me. And he just really firmly believes that God's name and the honor that God has placed in their community is right, and that he can't just give that away. And he's going to do whatever it takes to really make sure that in his life he's living that out. So I think that it's obedience just across his everyday life and then in this extraordinary moment.
I look at it as humility as well.
Hmm.
You know, he had a humble heart if you think of it, because he is anointed to be the king, and the next thing you know, he's supposed to fight a big giant. So, God, what are you doing? What am I supposed to do this for? So, just being obedient and humble and just trusting, and that's hard. So, I see David trusting that way.
Definitely. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, definitely a lot of obedience in the waiting for sure. Yep. And then you really see the contrast between his spirit and the spirit of those who are also fighting this battle. And yeah, he really stands out in his devotion to righteousness, like you said. Yeah. Really.
He certainly wasn't afraid. Oh, but
No, go
Oh,
ahead.
I don't know where I heard this, but that he'd picked 5 stones, but it wasn't because he thought it would take 5 stones to kill Goliath. It was because Goliath had 4 brothers, so he knew he only needed 1 stone to kill Goliath, thinking he was going to have to kill his brothers as well. So
Oh,
that's how much faith he had that he was doing the right thing. So
Yeah, that's huge. Wow.
Mhm.
yeah, I was just thinking that, he didn't look at his situation or the limitations that he had as a young man. He just stepped out in obedience, and as God was leading him to do this, he wasn't afraid. He didn't see his size or his not having maybe all the skills or being able to wear the armor as an obstacle. He just said, "Okay, God, use me to accomplish what you desire here." And I thought that was just a great example to me personally. Like, okay, let's just trust God in this because He has our back. He has a plan.
And the giant laughed at David. He laughed
Yeah.
at him and said, "Haha, you can't beat me." But here you go. He kept his trust and he walked in the name of God, God of Israel, who walked with him, and Almighty, who helped him win that battle.
No, that really stood out in the way that David Pritchard read the story on Sunday. I was like, just the way that David was able to stand tall in the face of this giant who was laughing, like you said, right in his face, and just that utter disbelief. I think there's a lot in this story that we can apply to our lives. How do you guys see this story speaking to you as you kind of go about life right now? Lana, do you want to jump in?
I see this in our daily life because we're all created in God's image, one, and we're all wonderfully made. But we're different. We're young, we're old, we're tall, we're big, we're different. And God made us in different, even different countries, different nationalities. But we all have one thing in common is we have God's trust. And if we walk in any problem, we have to face our giants because we have our own giants daily. We have temptations, we have trials, we have problems, different lifestyles. So just facing our giants, knowing that God is with us. He is walking with us. He's walking ahead of us, and He's walking with us. Just gives us the trust and the belief, and we shouldn't be afraid. It's easier to say sometimes than to do, but I do feel like God is. He reminds us of His faithfulness all the time. So if you walk in knowing that He's faithful and walking with us, we'll be okay.
Definitely. Yeah. I hadn't thought about it from the aspect of, yeah, we are all uniquely made by God. And yeah, the fact that no matter where He's placed us, He has something for us for sure. Yeah. What do the rest of you all think?
I thought about it from a place of peace because of this theme of Advent this week, and just kind of what it means in my own life to have peace versus appeasement. That was kind of a conversation we had at our house all week of we have a lot of different situations going on. We have a lot of different priorities, responsibilities. And as we were making decisions, are we making it from a place of peace or are we just trying to appease something? And it really struck me how often in my life I need the courage that David had to make peace and not just appease what else is happening. And along with that, kind of just, I felt like the wonder of when I look at Jesus, he can be both. He is both our peace, but also he is the only thing that can appease all of the suffering, all of the discomfort, all of the wrong choices that we've made. And in that, he brings actual lasting peace. So it was, I don't know, it really struck me a lot this week of how many different areas of my life need peace.
I actually thought about how David, they tried to put that armor on him and none of it fit. And how many times in our own life we run into a problem and we want to put on everything we possibly can on instead of asking God, what do I need? Stone. And sometimes we don't need much, we just need God, but we tend to try to do it all ourselves first. Instead of just having faith that God will provide for us. So that's always a good reminder to me.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I would say that when I'm at that place where I'm really struggling with my own fears or doubts about, okay, should I step into this situation? It seems like that's when the Spirit says, why don't you just take it to the Lord? Why don't you bring it to me? And so it's when those things happen, there is a sense where his peace kind of rests on you. There's this confidence now that it's in his hands. He's holding this. It's not about me in this moment. And there's been a few things that have come up this past couple of weeks where I've had some of those moments, and just taking it back to the Lord. There's a peace that I have felt about it. It's not on me. He's going to walk us through this. And so that's the takeaway for me, is the confidence that we can have in God that He'll come through.
Totally. Man, I love talking to you guys because I feel like you each pulled something from the story that I would not have thought of on my own. And I feel like David and Goliath is a story that a lot of us have heard time and again. But to see just the rich ways that God has applied it to each of your lives this week is really encouraging to me. So thank you for taking the time to have this conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.